Hello, amazing people. It's time for another rendition of the Hotlap Podcast. Buckle up, get your helmet, and let's go for a ride. Today we have kind of a short episode planned. It should be about 10 minutes of all of the racing news that you need from the past weekend mostly. I think the NASCAR and the Formula One race that we'll be covering today were both over the weekend. We had Imola in Italy in the Formula One calendar for this weekend, as well as a NASCAR race that took place in North Wilkesboro. That would have been the NASCAR All-Star race. Let's jump straight into it with our Formula One news right now. In an absolutely thrilling race through the short and technical circuit throughout the Italian hillside, we saw a unique double victory for Max Verstappen himself, winning the Grand Prix in real life, as well as helping his BMW M4 Redline Esports team win the virtual 24 hours of the Nürburgring, also holding the fastest lap for both races. If you didn't know, Max Verstappen competed in the online virtual 24 hours of the Nürburgring, running a 4-hour stint while he was in Imola. He actually had a stream going from inside his motorhome, where he had his sim rig set up and he was going at it. It was kind of fun watching the stream. It was funny knowing that he was, like in real life, he was on or near a Formula One paddock, but at the same time, he was competing in this 24 hours of the Nürburgring Challenge race. It was, it's really all that you would expect from the machine that is Max Verstappen to be competing in multiple races at one time. He actually won both races within 2 hours of each other. So he won the 24 hours of Nürburgring and then won Imola shortly after, which is somewhat impressive. However, Red Bull gave us some worry in the practice and qualifying sessions, appearing to be much slower than the upgraded McLaren and Ferrari counterparts that were putting in competitive times. This evident lack of pace was shaken off by Max, who qualified on pole position. His teammate Perez, however, could not pull himself out of the slump, being knocked out in Q2, fighting with Daniel Ricciardo at the end for P10. Ricciardo did end up winning the duel and continued into Q3. The top 10 for the grid after qualifying were Verstappen, Norris, Leclerc, Sainz, and Piastri, who qualified third but ended up picking up a grid place penalty and was moved demoted back to fifth position. George Russell came after that. Yuki Tsunoda followed, with Hamilton, Ricciardo, and Hülkenberg wrapping up the rest of the front half of the grid. Hülkenberg, who has been somebody who's put in some phenomenal laps this year and has been in high Q2 and Q3 consistently. It is not something to look over. He is very much putting in a very good shift in that Haas car. I think that it has been something that has been looked over, but should not be something to be looked over, because the way that he is carrying that Haas team and giving them consistent shots at points is a huge step up from the drivers that they have had in the past and where they have been fighting throughout the field. The Imola race itself was nothing to marvel over. It was fairly clean racing all around. I think after the first lap, all the cars were spaced out by about a half a second or more. There's no real points of action. Sergio Perez was able to finish in the points to contribute to Red Bull's points for the race. He made his way up to 8th and was unable to go past the two Mercedes drivers that finished in front of him, being George Russell in P7 and Lewis Hamilton in P6. Wow. Being George Russell and Lewis Hamilton in P7 and P6. Piastri made it past Carlos Sainz fairly early on in the race, finishing his run in 4th after being unable to chase down and catch up the drivers in front of him, the three who had broken away a little bit from the rest of the pack. Charles Leclerc was up the road from Piastri, about 6 seconds ahead by the end of the race. And Leclerc himself had fallen off of the front two. He was about 7 seconds behind the battle on the front end of the field for Lando Norris, who continued to show his serious pace and wonders in that upgraded McLaren, the one that they upgraded in Miami. However, it was not enough to tame Max Verstappen. The last 10 laps is where this race really came to life, when Lando did all he could, pushing as hard as he could to catch up. It gave us the best racing of the Grand Prix. Had there been another 2 or 3 laps, it's definitely fairly debatable on whether or not Max Verstappen would have won that race. Max Verstappen crossing the line 0.7 of a second in front of Lando Norris. It doesn't sound like a lot. If you've watched a Formula 1 race, you know that it's actually a pretty comfortable finish. That being said, Lando Norris was absolutely cooking around Imola. So had there been another 2 or 3 laps, I think Max would have been caught up at least by Lando. Do I think Lando Norris would have had the ability to pass Max at that point? Probably not. Your top 10 for Imola are as follows: Verstappen, Norris, Leclerc, Piastri, Sainz, Hamilton, Russell, Perez, Stroll, and Yuki Tsunoda. Daniel Ricciardo and Nico Hülkenberg both falling out of the points to P11 and P13, I believe. Up next, we are going to go ahead and get into the All-Star race in NASCAR. All right. This weekend in NASCAR, we had the NASCAR All-Star race. It took place in North Wilkesboro, as we spoke about in the intro. This led to some fun challenges and different styles of doing things. Things like the pit crew challenges. The session for the 17 eligible drivers and teams already locked in the All-Star race main event on Sunday night had been rescheduled to 11:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Saturday following the Truck Series qualifying. This was due to rain in the forecast. More rain was forecast for Saturday, but it was not likely to arrive until later in the afternoon. Whilst the last session's qualifying was based solely on the results of the Pit Crew Challenge, this season will include the traditional qualifying lap as well. Drivers will take the green flag, run 1 lap at full speed, and on the second lap proceed to one of 2 NASCAR designated pit stalls for a 4-tire stop with mock fuel delivery. When the pit stop is complete, the cars will exit pit road and race back to the checkered flag. This would decide the lineup for the event that took place on Sunday, the race. I think that every series needs to implement something like this. I think it'd be awesome to see Formula 1 implement a mandatory pit stop during a qualifying hot lap, where drivers have to take 2 laps, and on that second lap, they have to take a pit stop. I think this would be perfect for deciding an order. It allows the teams to get a little bit more involved with their drivers, and I think it's a fun challenge thing for like an all-star weekend if Formula 1 did something like that. I just think it would be nice. It'd be cool to see something like that happen. It'd be cool to see them get creative. Maybe it doesn't even have to be that. Maybe it's just something very, very similar to that. I don't know. It sounds intriguing. It sounds interesting. I think they could come up with something to be very, very beneficial and very fun for the viewer to watch. Now, jumping into the race, we're not actually going to talk too much about the race. I'm just going to give you guys the lineup and the finishing order. It was a 200-lap race. It was entertaining. If you want to watch the highlights, I highly recommend you go watch the highlights. There was a big fight that broke out after the race where pit crews and officials were getting involved. I absolutely recommend that you watch this race. For the grid, we had our top 10 being Logano, Keselowski, Bell, Suarez, Buescher, Reddick, Chastain, Truex Jr., McDowell, and Allmendinger. By the end of the race, Logano was able to hold on to that first position, followed by Denny Hamlin, then Buescher, Larson, Blaney, Wallace, Chastain, Chase Elliott, McDowell, Busch, and Gregson came in 11th. Don't know why I read that one off. I just read a little too far down the list. However, that is what we have for the NASCAR race. And like I said, it's a very, very short episode today. That is all we have for the episode, ladies and gentlemen. Come back next week as we enjoy breaking down some more motorsports. Some more Formula One, some more NASCAR, some more of the World Endurance Championship. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and feel free to follow me on my socials. Those will be down in the description on YouTube. Come back next week as we go over race results and key moments in the motorsport world. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, do not forget to brake late and accelerate early.